The concept of the Waldemath dark moon, also known as Lilith or the Cepharial moon, is often shrouded in mystery, sitting at the intersection of early 19th century astronomical hypothesis and modern esoteric astrology. Unlike the black moon Lilith, which represents the lunar apogee, or the asteroid Lilith, the Waldemath moon was proposed by George Waldemath as a physical second moon of Earth, dusty, non-reflective, and elusive. In a natal chart, this point represents a black hole of psychological gravity. When positioned in the 8th house, the house of transformation, shared resources, and the veil between worlds, its influence becomes exceptionally potent and transformative. The nature of the Waldemath influence. The Waldemath moon operates on a frequency of shadow work. It represents the parts of our psyche that are not just hidden, but perhaps fundamentally unobservable by others. It is the cold, silent observer within. While the standard moon represents our emotional needs and nurturing, the Waldemath moon represents a more primal, objective, and sometimes isolating form of emotional intelligence. It does not seek comfort, it seeks the absolute, unvarnished truth of a situation. The 8th house, the crucible. The 8th house is traditionally ruled by Scorpio and Pluto. It governs the things we marry into: sex, death, other people's money, and deep psychological metamorphosis. It is the house of the ego-death. Placing a dark, non-reflective point like the Waldemath moon here suggests that the individual's path to self-realization must pass through the most intense fires of human experience. Psychological depth and intimacy. Individuals with this placement often possess an uncanny ability to see through the social masks of others. In the realm of the 8th house, this manifests as a psychic X-ray vision. You likely feel the undercurrents of power dynamics, unspoken desires, and hidden agendas in any room you enter. This can lead to a sense of isolation. When you see what others are trying so hard to hide, it can be difficult to engage in superficial social niceties. In intimate relationships, the Waldemath moon in the 8th house demands a level of honesty that can be intimidating. You are not interested in light dating. You seek a soul-merging experience, but because this point is dark, there is often a fear of being consumed or controlled. There is a paradox here, a craving for total intimacy clashing with a fierce need to remain emotionally unobservable and protected. Power, control, and shared resources. The 8th house governs other people's money and the power that comes with it. With this placement, there may be complex lessons involving inheritance, taxes, or joint finances. The Waldemath influence suggests that these material matters are rarely just about money, they are conduits for deeper power struggles. You might find yourself in situations where you have to navigate the shadows of corporate or familial structures. The lesson here is the mastery of detachment. Because the Waldemath moon is non-reflective, it suggests that you should not define your worth by the resources you share with others. There is a call to develop an internal sovereignty of the soul that cannot be bought, sold, or inherited. The relationship with mortality and the occult. Perhaps the most profound expression of this placement is a natural, albeit perhaps somber, relationship with the concept of death and the afterlife. You may find yourself drawn to the occult, psychology, or crisis management. You are the person others turn to when the lights go out, because you are comfortable navigating the darkness. While others fear the 8th house themes of loss and endings, the Waldemath moon provides a strange, stoic comfort in these spaces. You understand that energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. This placement often marks a shamanic path, someone who must descend into their own personal underworld to retrieve fragments of wisdom that can eventually be used to help others heal. Integration and the path forward. To live successfully with the Waldemath moon in the 8th house, one must embrace the role of the silent alchemist. The darkness of this moon is not evil, it is fertile. It is the soil in which the most resilient versions of the self are grown. The challenge is to avoid falling into cynicism or paranoia. Because you see the shadows so clearly, it is easy to forget that light exists. Your work is to use your profound psychological insights not to manipulate or retreat, but to facilitate genuine transformation, first within yourself, and then as a steady hand for others navigating their own dark nights of the soul. You are meant to find the gold hidden in the shadow, proving that even in the most hidden corners of the 8th house, there is a profound and unshakable truth waiting to be claimed. When the Waldemath dark moon, the elusive second moon, forms a conjunction with a natal planet or angle in the 8th house, the black hole effect is magnified. A conjunction fuses the energies. The planet involved is pulled into the Waldemath's gravity, stripped of its superficial traits, and forced to operate at a primal, subterranean level. In the 8th house, these conjunctions act as fated points of psychological reckoning. The planet being touched by the dark moon no longer functions for the sake of the ego, it becomes a tool for deep tissue soul work. Conjunction with the sun, the solar eclipse of self. When the sun is conjunct the Waldemath moon in the 8th house, the core identity is inextricably linked to the mysteries of life and death. This creates a personality that is naturally eclipsed or private. You may feel that your true essence is invisible to the world, leading to a lifelong quest for self-discovery through crisis. Your vitality is fueled by transformation. You don't just experience change, you are change. The danger here is a tendency towards self-sabotage when things become too stable, as the sun Waldemath ego only feels truly alive when it is being reborn. Conjunction with the moon, the double shadow. This is a heavy, deeply psychic placement. The regular moon represents your emotional needs, while the Waldemath represents a cold, objective void. Together in the 8th house, this suggests a person who can be emotionally detached in the face of absolute chaos. You may have had a mother figure who was mysterious, emotionally unavailable, or involved in 8th house professions, medicine, psychology, or the occult. Your inner world is a fortress. To find peace, you must learn to nurture yourself without needing external validation, as your emotional frequency is often too dark or complex for others to mirror back to you. Conjunction with Mercury, the forbidden knowledge. Mercury here creates a mind that is obsessed with the unspoken. You are the ultimate investigator, the cryptographer of human behavior. Your communication style is likely sparse, potent, and piercing. You don't care about what people say, you care about why they said it and what they left out. This conjunction can indicate a talent for research, forensic accounting, or psychotherapy. However, it can also lead to a detective complex, where you find it difficult to trust information unless you have personally verified the hidden motive behind it. Conjunction with Venus, the Gothic romance. Venus conjunct the Waldemath moon in the 8th house creates a Persephone dynamic. Love and value are inextricably tied to intensity, power, and the taboo. You may find beauty in things others find macabre or unsettling. In relationships, there is a ride or die mentality. You seek a partner who is willing to go into the trenches with you. Financial matters with partners may be shrouded in secrecy or involve complex karmic debts. The lesson here is to find value in the intangible, to love the soul rather than the mask or the assets. Conjunction with Mars, the silent warrior. Mars is the traditional ruler of the 8th house, making this conjunction exceptionally sharp. This is the energy of the assassin or the surgeon, action that is precise, hidden, and final. Your anger is rarely explosive, it is cold and strategic. You have an incredible reservoir of survival energy, but you may struggle with power struggles in intimate settings. The Waldemath moon cools Mars's heat, turning it into a focused laser. You must be careful not to use this power to control others, but rather to cut away the rot in your own life and the lives of those you choose to help. Conjunction with Jupiter, the philosopher of the void. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, but the Waldemath moon is a point of contraction and depth. This creates a unique dark optimism. You may find profound spiritual meaning in the most difficult of circumstances. You are a priest of the underworld, capable of finding expansion through loss. This can manifest as great luck in 8th house matters, such as inheritances or managing large-scale resources, but there is always a price of wisdom that must be paid. You grow by letting go. Conjunction with Saturn, the guardian of the gate. This is one of the most sobering placements. Saturn brings structure and boundaries, while the Waldemath dark moon brings the void. In the 8th house, this suggests a heavy responsibility regarding death, taxes, or shared legacies. You may feel a karmic weight that requires you to be the most disciplined person in the room during a crisis. There is a fear of losing control over your resources, which can lead to extreme self-reliance. Your path is to build a structure that can withstand the inevitable cycles of destruction and rebirth. The transit of the Waldemath dark moon through the 8th house is a period of profound psychological excavation. Because the Waldemath moon is a hypothetical dust cloud or ghost moon, its transits are felt less as external events and more as a creeping internal mist, a slow, pervasive atmospheric shift that forces you to confront the most shadowy corners of your psyche. The descent into the underworld. As this point moves through your 8th house, it acts like a silent probe into your shared vulnerabilities. This house governs the unspoken contracts we have with others, sexual, financial, and emotional. The transit often marks a period where you feel a sense of emotional exile or isolation within your most intimate connections. You may begin to notice power dynamics that were previously invisible, or feel a sudden, sharp refusal to continue playing roles that diminish your sovereignty. This is not a time of light-hearted social interaction. Instead, you are called to identify repressed fears, themes of betrayal, loss, or being controlled by others' resources, debts, inheritances, or emotional baggage, come to the surface. Audit intimacy. You may feel a primal rage or a cold detachment toward partners who do not meet your need for absolute transparency. Process karmic debt. In esoteric astrology, this transit is seen as a clearinghouse for past life or generational patterns of trauma, specifically those related to power and survival. Transiting conjunctions to natal planets. The intensity of the transit peaks when the Waldemath dark moon crosses over a natal planet already residing in your 8th house. This fusion creates a black hole effect, stripping that planet of its superficial expressions. Over natal sun, a total eclipse of the ego. You may feel invisible or irrelevant, but this is a setup for a radical rebirth. You are learning to shine from a place of internal truth rather than external validation. Over natal moon, a period of double shadow. Your emotional safety may feel threatened, or you may experience vivid, unsettling dreams. This transit demands that you mother your own darkest impulses rather than looking for a protector. Over natal Mercury, secrets are revealed, or you become the keeper of them. Your mind turns toward the macabre, the occult, or the forensic. It is an excellent time for deep research, but a dangerous time for paranoid thinking. Over natal Venus, a gothic phase for relationships. You may be drawn to intense, ride or die attractions that challenge your boundaries. Financial issues with others may reach a crisis point that requires a complete transformation of how you value yourself. Over natal Mars, cold, calculated action. If you have been suppressed, this transit can trigger a quiet but lethal rebellion. It is a period of cutting away rot, whether that is a toxic habit, a debt, or a predatory relationship. The mastery of the void. The duration of a Waldemath transit is often erratic, treading back and forth over a single degree as it stations. This means a specific 8th house issue may haunt you for months, demanding a level of shadow work that cannot be rushed. The successful navigation of this transit does not lead to happiness in the conventional sense, but to empowerment. By the time the Waldemath moon leaves your 8th house, you have likely looked into the void and realized that the darkness is not empty, it is where your untapped power has been hiding. You emerge as a silent alchemist, no longer afraid of the deep waters of the human experience. When the Waldemath dark moon moves through the 8th house and makes a transit conjunction to a natal planet, the effect is akin to a psychic reboot. Unlike a transit from Mars, which is loud, or Saturn, which is heavy, a Waldemath conjunction is silent and absolute. It acts as a solvent, dissolving the ego attachments associated with that planet and forcing it to operate from a place of raw, unvarnished truth. In the 8th house, the realm of shared power, sex, and the occult, these conjunctions act as a dark night of the soul for the specific function of the planet involved. Transiting Waldemath conjunct natal outer planets. While conjunctions to personal planets, Sun through Mars, feel deeply personal, conjunctions to the outer planets, Jupiter through Pluto, signal a shift in your relationship to collective power and the invisible world. Conjunct natal Jupiter, this is the crisis of faith. Jupiter represents our expansion and belief systems. When the dark moon crosses it in the 8th, your typical optimistic outlook may be swallowed by a sudden realization of life's harsher realities. However, this is a dark expansion. You are learning to find a more resilient form of hope, one that doesn't depend on good luck but on your ability to find meaning in the void. Conjunct natal Saturn, this transit represents the audit of the soul. Saturn is your structure, the Waldemath moon is the vacuum. In the 8th house, this often manifests as a stark confrontation with your mortality or your financial dependencies. You may feel an immense pressure to settle karmic debts. It is a period of extreme self-discipline where you are forced to cut away any psychological crutches you've used to avoid your own power. Conjunct natal Uranus, this is the sudden fracture. Uranus is the planet of liberation and shock. When the dark moon hits it here, expect a sudden, possibly unsettling realization regarding your intimate life or your subconscious. It is a lightning bolt in the dark, revealing a secret or a hidden truth that fundamentally changes your path. The goal is a radical break from psychological patterns that have kept you enslaved to others. Conjunct natal Neptune, this is the dissolution of the veil. This is perhaps the most psychic and spooky of all the conjunctions. The boundary between your mind and the collective unconscious thins. You may experience intense dreams, mediumistic openings, or a feeling of being haunted by the past. The danger is escapism or paranoia. The gift is a profound, mystical understanding of the continuity of life beyond the physical. Conjunct natal Pluto, this is the return to the source. Since Pluto is the natural ruler of the 8th house, this conjunction is an intensification of the highest order. It is a total system override. You are forced to confront your relationship with power, control, and obsession. This is the ultimate shamanic transit, a death and rebirth of the most primal parts of your nature. You emerge either utterly decimated or completely empowered. Transiting Waldemath conjunct natal angles. The angles of the chart, ASC, DSC, MC, IC, are the crosshairs of your life. When the Waldemath moon crosses an angle, the internal shadow work becomes visible in your external reality. Conjunct the descendant, 7th/8th house cusp. This often marks a fated encounter with a shadow other. You may meet someone who acts as a mirror for all your repressed 8th house qualities, or an existing partnership may undergo a death phase to see if it can survive the subsequent rebirth. Conjunct the IC, for th/8th house resonance. This triggers deep ancestral shadows. You may find yourself dealing with family secrets, ghosts in the literal or figurative sense, or a sudden need to investigate your roots to understand why you feel so fundamentally alienated. Summary of the conjunction experience. The Waldemath conjunction never adds, it only subtracts the false. When it touches a natal point in your 8th house, it is asking, who are you when everything you rely on, your money, your partner's support, your social mask, is stripped away? The answer found during these conjunctions is the only truth that can actually survive the 8th house fires. You don't come out of these transits happier, but you come out heavier, deeper, and profoundly more real. Subscribe, like, and share.